Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer for Sports Illustrated. Super excited to bring on the program for the first time, but I hope it's not the last. Bree Amaranthus, who is our Sports Illustrated Oregon beat writer, does a terrific job. Bree, I apologize. I'm fighting strep throat, but man, I had to get you on because you're the beat writer and the Raiders absolutely stole Jackson Powers Johnson. I know of several teams, including the Raiders, had first round grades on them,
Mhm.
but a lot of teams made some really dumb picks that pushed a lot of talent into the second round. And I know that nobody knows this kid better than you.
Well, Hondo, thanks so much for having me on. It won't be the last time I join you either, so I'm really excited about that. I did just take over the Oregon site, but I've known Jackson Powers Johnson for 5 years. So JPJ, huge get for the Raiders, not only on the field, but he's going to be a media member's absolute dream. I know a lot of the Oregon media is really sad to see him go because he has so many great quotes and he's such a lively personality. He brings positivity everywhere he goes. And honestly, he's really funny. I had an exclusive with him right before the NFL draft, right after he played in the Senior Bowl. And he told me the funniest story about how, at the Senior Bowl, there's like poachers that are trying to get them to sign, gear so that then they can flip it and sell it. And JPJ's like, what the heck? I'll sign the stuff for the real fans, but I'm not going to do this for the poachers. So he decided to sign each thing with the poachers a different kind of funny name. And one of the names he used was Turd Ferguson, which if you're a Saturday Night Live skit person, the Will Ferrell, or no, it's not Will Ferrell. Who's in the Turd Ferguson skit? I forget. But it is one of the best skits of all time. And then his uncle thought it was so funny that he then approached the poacher and bought it back for him so that they could have that as a family heirloom.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. So, Bree, I want to talk about his style.
Yeah.
The Raiders are looking for the tough, nasty. This is before your time. You probably won't remember Richie Incognito, a guard, but they love great kid off the field.
Yeah.
But man, he's nasty and tough on it. Can you talk about that side of him, please?
Yeah, absolutely. In that exclusive interview, I said, what is a team getting when they draft you? And he says, I play violently. And that is so true. He anchored Oregon's offensive line for the last 5 years, and Oregon's offensive line has been the best in the country for the last 2 years. He only gave up 1 pressure and 0 sacks last year. This guy is an animal, but he's also versatile, which I know is good for the Raiders this year. He's played at left tackle, he's played at guard. And so because he's the center, he was making all those calls. He's so educated on what every position does. And so I think that versatility is really another reason why his draft stock was such a skyrocketing draft stock. I was shocked to see him go in the second round as well. But yeah, I think his physicality and his grit is something that's going to be really good for Vegas.
Tell us about the Raiders led the NFL this year, over 30 guys in the building every day, even when they didn't have to be there. They've got a lot of gym rats, guys that love watching film, guys that love being around the guys. I've heard that they almost had to kick them out of the Oregon facilities. Would you talk about that side of them, please?
Oh yeah. I mean, he's just a team guy. He's one of those guys that I think when he left Oregon, everyone was genuinely really sad to see him go. Of course, so happy for him to, get to play in the NFL, to reach that dream. But he's everyone's best friend and he's so, so committed. He's a very loyal person, I think, to his teammates, his coaches, his family, his friends, that his IQ is just really off the charts when it comes to football. So I think that's definitely an addition for him. I don't know if you saw in his draft call when he got the call from the Raiders, but he says,
I do.
quote, I'm gonna whoop some ass for you. And that's just like that's his attitude, right? Like he's full go. He is Raider Nation now. I know his dad actually grew up a Miami Dolphins and Dan Marino fan, but I'm sure he's a Raiders fan now. But yeah, he's dedicated.
So he's a guard, Bree, with the Raiders, or that's where they want him. They want him to stick there. I think he's going to be the starting guard when the season begins. Tell us a little bit about his work ethic. I was told if he does something wrong in a game, that there were times he would actually go and work out after games on a mistake that he made. Would you talk about that side of his character, please?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on with that. There's nothing that Jackson isn't going to do to be able to reach his full potential. And I know what he wants to be is a long-term starter in the NFL. He wants to be a star, and he's got the personality where he could really be a actual star as well, on the field and off. So yeah, I think his work ethic's going to be great. What do you, if you don't mind me asking, what has been the fan reaction to this selection so far?
Oh my God, over the top because they love the nasty. He is an old school Raider. This is a kid that would play with a leather helmet if they let him. I mean, Raider Nation is jacked up. This is one of their own. Matter of fact, I actually had a person say to me, "This is like a guy that was made in the lab for us."
I love that.
I want to ask you one other quick question about him, Bree. We're talking with Bree Amaranthus, who is our Sports Illustrated Oregon beat writer, does a great job. She is from Oregon. I think you graduated from Oregon, and she's just now on the beat there, but she's known JPJ for several years. Bree, I was told that as mean and nasty and tough as he is on the football field, that off the field, our fans would fall in love with him. Could you talk about, and when I say our fans, I'm quoting someone. Obviously, I'm not a fan of the Raiders, but they were saying our fans would love him. Can you talk about him off the field?
Oh my gosh. I mean, a stand up person. Your question kind of ignites one story I know about Jackson. So his name is long, right? Jackson Powers Johnson. And he actually added the Johnson after he was 18. He went to the courthouse on his own. So Jackson's stepdad, James Johnson, is the major father figure in his life. I believe Jackson's stepdad and his mom were married when he was very young, maybe only 3 years old. And so he played such a major role for him as a dad that Jackson, when he got to Oregon, he wanted to really show him how much he appreciated him and how much they really were family. So he went to the courthouse and he added his stepdad's last name to his name. And he says, yeah, I know it sounds crazy. Like, it's long, and that's why everybody calls me JPJ. But it was that important to him to make sure that his stepdad got that recognition as his father. And then when I asked him, what's it going to be like when you get drafted? I had an exclusive interview with him about a month ago. And he was like, I'm so excited. It's really just, I'm trying to soak it up. I really want to have that actual feeling of enjoyment. He's like, what I'm going to do, honestly, is just kind of sit back and watch what my parents do. And I thought that was really sweet for, a young man to have that sort of perspective of, it's not just me that got me here today. It was a group of us. And I am sure that Raiders Nation is going to love him.
Oh, man, they already do, Bree. They already do. They're jacked up for this guy. It's going to be funny watching Powers Johnson fit on the back of a jersey, though.
I know, yeah, and he knows that, right? But it's that important to him, and everybody start calling him JPJ. It's a lot easier to type as well. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
She is Bree Aranthus. Now, listen, follow Bree on Twitter. Bree, tell everyone where to follow you.
Yep. So I'm at Bree Amaranthus on Twitter. You can go to our website, which is si.com/college/Oregon. And we have a Twitter, we've got an Instagram. We're really gearing up for, NFL schedule release, because we have so many pro ducks now on NFL teams that it's really exciting. But I actually did have one more question for you, Hondo, because
Sure.
playing in Las Vegas is so unique. I would imagine living in Las Vegas is so unique. Obviously, you have that gorgeous new stadium. Where do the players normally like live? Like, do they don't live? Do they live on the strip?
No, 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 no. The strip, no, not at all. A lot
Yeah.
live in the Henderson, Anthem, Summerlin areas. No, nobody from Vegas lives on the strip at all. In fact, they stay away from the strip. And yeah, okay, all right, great. Go to the strip. That's great. No, they stay away, but a lot live in Henderson, close to the facility. It's a beautiful area, and but yeah, all over in that Henderson area. Again, some in Summerlin, Anthem, but most in Henderson.
What's been the vibe since you've had Antonio Pierce take over?
Well, it feels like the Raiders are back to being the Raiders. It's almost like for the last 20 years they've just wandered in the wilderness, trying to find an identity that they had lost.
Yeah.
And then along comes Antonio Pierce, who grew up a Raider, is a Raider, personifies the Raiders, and him just being genuine brought the Raiders back. It's why JPJ just fits. I mean, he's their kind of guy, violent, nasty, mean, and that's what the head coach says he wants. That's JPJ.
I love it. Well, it sounds like he's going to be a pretty good fit. Do they have him pegged in? You said at guard, left guard, right guard?
Right guard. Yep.
Great.
He'll be. I mean, there's going to be a competition, but I don't see any way he's not starting week one at right guard.
Yeah, and then we'll see who you have playing quarterback, right?
Aiden O'Connell till somebody beats him.
Okay. All right.
Awesome. So make sure you follow Bree. Check out all of her Sports Illustrated Oregon coverage. She's a great addition to our beat staff. We appreciate her and we respect her. She does a great job. Bree, thanks for joining us.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me. I can't wait to see how you guys do this year.
Awesome. We now turn our attention to Starkville, where we're going to go run out and talk to Steve Robertson, who's the longtime 247 reporter covering Mississippi State. And Steve, first of all, thank you for being on with us the first time we've had you, but it's great to have you. I want to talk to you about a Raiders draft pick, a fourth rounder, and a guy that kind of flew under the radar, but 2-year starter in the SEC. He's big, 6'2", runs a 4.3. Decamerion Richardson. Would you talk about him, please?
Yeah, he was a little bit of a late bloomer. He was a guy that grew significantly in high school. And I think most people, maybe midway through his prep career, thought he'd be a G5 guy. Well, he ends up growing about 3.5 inches, and the length went with him. And next thing you know, Mississippi State had a recruiting analyst that had known the kid well from his time at LSU. So they continued to kind of monitor him. And he shows up and just a freak of an athlete. I mean, he's exactly what you want on an island because of his catch radius and his length. It's so difficult to throw over Decamerion. But I think maybe the best thing about him is, his humility. There's a lot of these guys that come to the SEC and they feel like they've already made it. And so as a result, they don't work as hard. I think Decamerion has always felt the need to try to prove himself. And I think some of that maybe dates back to his high school career, where a lot of the schools he was interested in didn't get interested in him until late. But he came in, played behind Martin Emerson as a freshman and opposite Emmanuel Forbes. So he has played with some guys that are doing some things in the National Football League now. Of course, Forbes, a first rounder last year. So he has had the ability to work under Darcel McBath, that had a great career at Texas Tech and a great career with the Broncos. McBath's now gone on for Mississippi State, but that's been his mentor. But I think having the chance to work with guys like Martin and Emmanuel and the work ethic that they had just kind of meshed well with his values.
The Raiders like their corners on an island. They like big, physical guys that are out there on their own. And this is a guy that likes to play that style, doesn't he?
He does, and he can get downhill in the running game too. And I think that's probably an underreported part of his game because the thing about cornerbacks are if they're doing their job, they don't make the highlight reel, right? Because their guy's not open. And so he has the natural ability to cover. But the thing that has always impressed me is his willingness to get down and play team football and really get down there in the box and come off the corner on a blitz, and whether it be a run blitz or a pass blitz, and just really get after people. I think the biggest thing about him, though, is that the potential hasn't been fully realized yet. I don't think he understands how good he can be. And I think playing behind some guys who have now done it in the league has probably made him realize, hey, I can do this. And so I think the Raiders are getting him on the upward trajectory where there are a lot of guys that may have peaked in college. I just don't think that's the case with Decamerion.
Mhm. Steve, I want to ask you, when you see a guy with that talent that he has, and the tape certainly tells the story, you begin to think, why has he slipped to the fourth round? And you just touched something that I think is very important for people to know about him, is he is a late bloomer. But by all accounts, this is a kid who's a gym rat, film rat, coachable, that even though he's a late bloomer, it has nothing to do with work ethic, has nothing to do with immaturity. And this is a kid that's going to take the coaching with that desire to get better. Have I heard about him correctly?
Yeah, you have. And see, one of the things about him too is like he loves the game of football. You know, there's some guys out there that they do it because they have to, right? It becomes their chosen vocation. But this is a guy that not only did he need football, but he loves football. And playing for a guy like Darcel McBath is a guy that was a technician in the NFL. This is an important thing for Decam. And I love the kid too, because like I'd be out there covering football camps and he's out there. And I'm like, oh, do you know a kid out here? And he's like, no, I just wanted to be around the guys and see if I couldn't help a little bit, you know? And so he's out here at summer football camps coaching kids that he has no connection to whatsoever. Nobody asked him, nobody paid him to do it, but he loves the game of football. And there are guys out there that Mississippi State are never going to recruit, but there's Decamerion Richardson out there working with them, showing them technique, trying to help those kids get better. That's a special kid right there. And one thing I want to say about that too, we really thought he had a second round grade, maybe late second round, early third round. So I think him going into fourth is not an indictment on his ability, but I think in some respects it may be because of the season Mississippi State had last year. It was a very frustrating year. Defensively, things were not what they should have been. I think some people maybe just didn't see him have that draft year tape they were expected to have. But I think he's an absolute steal in the fourth round.
Great. That's great insight. Steve, you segued into my next question very well. Thank you, by the way. And I'm told on the field, in the building, football beast, but outside of it, the word I was given was peach of a human being. Can you talk about him away from football, please?
Yeah, he's really, really quiet, kind of a subdued guy. He's one of those guys that just kind of, flicks the switch when the lights come on. But when you're around him, he never has these airs of arrogance or anything like that. He's not a guy that, you're never going to hear any off-the-field issues with him. I mean, he's just not built that way. Again, he's kind of a small-town Louisiana kid, and, he's really proud of where he's come from. But he's just not a guy that was ever involved in anything that ever would be a character concern. And I think one of the most important things about that, in this day and time is there's just so many people out there that have a sense of entitlement. I think Decamerion's a guy that feels like he has to earn everything he's got. And I think a lot of that comes from his humble backgrounds, but also, too, you come to Mississippi State and you got two future NFL guys in front of you. And so rather than pout because he wasn't on the team, he goes, hey, these are guys that I can learn from. And he did.
It's awesome. And lastly, Steve, any story about him that you think maybe you dealt with that really personifies him as a player or person?
I think one of the things when all the rumors came up that he may go in the transfer portal, and saw him in passing, and I'm like, hey, and he just kind of looked at me and he's like, nah, I'm not going anywhere. These people gave me a chance. I'm committed to them. And like all this NIL stuff that's happening now in college football, it's like you hear, well, this guy made a deal, but now he wants more money. You're just gonna get in the portal. Decamerion was never involved in any of that stuff. And I can't say that about a lot of kids. And a lot of names that people know, it's like they hold these schools hostage. But Decam is not that kind of kid. I mean, he is a guy that believes in going out there and playing the game the right way. And he has focused on the right things in football. And I think that is probably maybe the parting shot there is that he took his opportunities that he earned in a high school level and he took advantage of those on the college level to get him to this point. He has worked for everything that he has gotten. God blessed him with a very gifted frame, obviously, but he did not rest on that. He came in and worked hard. And even last year when things were kind of going south from Mississippi State, you always saw Decam as being that positive guy trying to uplift people. He's a great teammate, and I think he's going to do a great job for the Raiders.
That's really awesome. Now, Steve covers Mississippi State for 247. Steve, can you give them your X handle where they can find you and follow you, please?
Yeah, I'm at Scout Steve R, and been there for years. And I got the Highway 98 tattoo as my AVI because I'm from South Mississippi. I'm incredibly proud to be from South Mississippi, and I have loved Mississippi State my whole life, and I got the blessing to be able to cover them. And now on the website genespage.com, we're the Mississippi State affiliate for 247 Sports, and I know that you're a guy too that has some connections to Michigan, so I wore my Detroit Rock City shirt for you today too, the Kiss Destroyer shirt. But we love these kids, man, and I say that not just because they went to Mississippi State, but I'm a guy from South Mississippi, and not a lot of people get out and get to do great things. And so when people that kind of share our values have the opportunity that Decam has, I think it sends a great message to everybody else that if he made it, then they can make it too.
Yeah. What's your connection to Michigan? I got to ask.
I don't have a connection to Michigan other than my wife had an uncle that lived in Muskegon. I've been to was it Muskegon Adventure or whatever it is, And I think
Michigan's Adventure.
I think the worst flight I've ever taken in my life was from Grand Rapids, from Detroit to Grand Rapids. I didn't think I was going to walk away from that one, but no, we got some family up there, and we're how it is in this football community. It's like we all kind of rely on each other for intel, and I'm really honored that you asked me on so I could speak on behalf of Decamerion Richardson, a guy that we really respect a lot.
Well, I appreciate that, and take care of our guy Justin Frommer. I'm so glad he's working for you. I know he loves working for you and with you, and so good job there. Thanks a lot, Steve, for breaking down Decamerion. This is a guy that they stole, and it's a guy that he was one of a few corners on their list that if they could come away with him, they were really happy. And I'm glad you could give Raider Nation an angle on him. Thank you, Steve.
Happy to do it. You guys take care.
Appreciate you. Bye-bye.